for two students to the homework help video, page 48, numbers 25 or 35 through 42 all. Now these are word problems. Some of you might find these challenging while others might not. So please bear with me, take really good notes, pay attention, and I will help you understand these problems. In a woodshop class, you must cut pieces of wood. Now when you cut the piece of wood, the teacher wants you to have it to within 3/16 of an inch of the teacher's specification. For example, if he asked you to cut a piece of wood that was 4 inches, okay, here's a piece of wood, and he wants you to cut it so that it's 4 inches across. Well, that means you can be off by 3/16 of an inch, so your cut can be this big for 3/16, or if you take 4, let me back up. So the teacher tells you the cut should be 4 inches. So you add 3/16, and your cut can be off all the way to 4/316, or you can subtract 3/16. And we should know how to do that. If you don't, I'll show you. 4 minus 3/16, you borrow from the 4, make it a 3, and you borrowed one whole number. So one whole number would be 16/16, okay? So 16/16 minus 3/16 would be 13/16, and then 3 minus nothing, there's nothing, here's 3. Let's go over that again just one more time for those who are a little slow with fractions, okay? I have a 0 here. You can't take 3/16 from 0, so I borrow 1 from the 4 and make it a 3. Now if I borrow one whole number, how do you write a whole number in fractions? Well, 4 over 4 is a whole, 10 over 10 is a whole, 50 over 50 is a whole. Because my denominator is a 16, I'm going to use 16 over 16, that's a whole. So I borrowed a whole, and I put it over here. Now 16/16 minus 3/16 would be 13/16. Bring down your 3. So your cut is supposed to be 4 inches, but it can be 4 and 3/16, or it could be 3 and 13/16, okay? So that's what this means. Now let S minus X represent the difference between the specifications your teacher gives you, in this case 4. I'm just using this as an example, and the measured length X of a cut piece of wood. Now, write an absolute value inequality that describes the values of X that are written, or excuse me, that are within specifications. And then they want us to do something else here. We'll get to this in just a second. Right now they want us to write an absolute value inequality that describes the values of X that are within specifications. Now I'm going to explain this well, but it's going to be difficult for me to explain for you to learn, but we can do this, okay? Now think about it. S is your specified length, and the X is the actual measured length. Got it? So let's say that it's supposed to be 4. That's your specified length, and the actual length was 4 and 3/16. If you subtract those two, S minus X, like it says right here, you'll get 3/16, okay? Let's say that your specified cut was 4, okay? And instead, it ended up being 3 and 13/16. Well, of course, this would be negative here. If you subtract these, your S minus X, you will get 3/16. Now, I will probably not give you one this difficult on a test or a quiz, but it is so good for your brains to be stretched on your homework, okay? So all that I'm trying to show you is S minus X equals this or this. It has to fall in between those two. So all that I have to say is this: S minus X has to be less than or equal to 3/16 or greater than or equal to negative 3/16, okay? Now students, think about this. We learned this in our lesson on absolute value inequalities. We learned that when you have an absolute value inequality like X minus 2 is less than 5, you rewrite it like this, don't you? We taught you that. Remember, if the arrow's pointing to the left, you write it as a conjunction. That'd be a negative 5 there. Well, look what you've got. You've got the same number here and here, except this one's positive, this one's negative. And both the arrows are pointing to the left. So you can write the absolute value like this. S minus x is less than or equal to 3/16. This converts to this. How do I know that? Well, students, go backwards. If I told you to write this as a conjunction, you see that the arrow is pointing this way. So you'd bring down your 3/16. You'd put a negative 3/16 here. Right in the middle, you'd put s minus x. Then you put this and this. That's just what you had right here. So this is the same thing as this. Now, one of the pieces of wood, so part 1 is done. Write an absolute value inequality. Here it is. Perfect. Now, one of the pieces of wood is specified to be 5/8 inches. Describe the acceptable lengths. Well, guys, that's not hard. Remember what I taught you to do. You take 5 1/8 plus 3/16. Because that's how much you can be off. The teacher wants the piece of wood to have this measurement here. So the acceptable lengths would be 5 1/8 plus 3/16, or 5 1/8 what? Minus 3/16. Now, learn to use your graphing calculator, okay? If you don't have a graphing calculator, if you don't know how to use it, listen to me. You can do this so quickly, okay? Take your graphing calculator, and you have 5 1/8. That's the same thing as 5 plus 1/8. So with your calculator, now listen to me. With your calculator, type in 5 plus 1 divided by 8. Please type that in. 5 plus 1/8. Hit enter. When you hit enter, you'll get 5.125. Now hit plus, and then hit 3/16. Then hit enter. You will get 5.3125. Now hit math, enter, enter. Math is on the left side, third button down from the top. Hit math, enter, enter, and it converts it to a fraction. There you go. So it would be 85/16. Now if you want to make that a mixed number, simply divide 16 into 85. It goes in 5 times, and you have 5 left over, okay? There you go. 5 5/16. Now let's use your calculator on this one. Take 5 plus 1/8. So 5 plus 1 divided by 8, enter. Then hit minus 3/16. So minus 3 divided by 16, enter. You'll get 4.9375. Hit math, enter, enter, and you'll get this for your answer. 79/16. Now, if you want to write it in mixed numbers, 16 goes to 79 4 times, and you'll have 15 left over. Alright, there we go. So there's the equation here. Let me check in the book and make sure my answers are right. And yes, the answers are correct. 4/15, 4/15/16, and 5 5 Okay, let's go on to another problem. Let's really practice these, okay? Problem number 36. The average time to run a mile for the members of your gym class is 7 minutes and 4 seconds, okay? You want your time to be within 5 seconds of the class average. Rewrite the class average as seconds. Let's do that first, okay? Rewrite the class average as seconds. So the class average is 7 minutes and 4 seconds. That's feet and inches, but in trigonometry, that's also minutes and seconds. So 7 minutes. Let's see, we have 60 seconds in every minute. So 7 minutes would be 420 seconds plus 4 more seconds. So 7 minutes and 4 seconds is 424. Hold on, my pen's not working here, guys. Hold on a second. Would be 424 inches. There we go. Okay, so there's the class average rewritten in seconds. Then write and solve an absolute value inequality for the difference between your time, t, and the class average. Now let's stop, breathe deeply, and think this through, okay? You said that you want your time to be within 5 seconds. So that means you don't care if your time is 429, 5 seconds more, or 419, 5 seconds slower, okay? So in other words, watch this carefully. If you take your time, and what is your time? right here. T, your time, comma, T. So if you take your time and you subtract 424, you either want to get what? Well, if it's 419 minus 424, you get a negative 5. If you take 429 for your time, let's pretend this was your time. If that was your time and you subtract it, you get a negative 5. If this was your time here and you subtract it, you get a positive 5. So all that I'm trying to show you is this. Now watch this carefully. This is a tough problem. Watch carefully. You can understand this if you'll listen. Your time, whatever your time is, minus out the class average time, had better give you a 5 or a negative 5. Think about it. When you put your time in here, T, and subtract out the class average, it better be within 5 seconds this way or 5 seconds this way. You better get a negative 5 or you better get a positive 5. So one more time, I'm going to move on. Listen to me carefully. When you put your time in, whatever it is, and subtract 424, you had better be within positive 5 or negative 5 seconds off. Now, look at this. We have a conjunction, arrows pointing to the left, right? Yes. This number here is identical to this number here, except one's negative, one's positive. So you know how to write the absolute value. Whenever you have this number here and this number here identical, except this is negative, this is positive, and both arrows are pointing to the left, then you can write an absolute value inequality by taking the middle of your conjunction, arrow point to the left, and bring this number down to the right. And there it is. We did it. Not easy, and you're probably struggling, but go back and watch it again if you need to. But that's how you would do that. They're going to get easier in a second, okay? All right, number 37. 95% of the palm widths were solutions of this inequality. Right here. Sketch the graph of this inequality. Well, let's first of all read the directions above number 37 in your book. In a sampling conducted by the U.S. Air Force, the right-hand dimensions of 4,000 Air Force men were measured. Okay, so here we go. 95% of the palm widths were solutions to this right here. They fell in this area right here. Sketch this graph. Well, guys, we know how to graph this. We definitely know how to graph this. This is a absolute value inequality. It's pointing to the left, so we take 0.26, we write it here. Then we take negative 0.26 and write it here. Point the arrows to the left, and then put what in the middle? P minus 3.49. Now we can graph this as soon as we solve it. So we're going to put positive 3.49 on both sides. And we're going to be left with P in the middle. Mr. Earhart, how does this help you solve it? You'll see, just watch. Positive, so we get 3.75. Positive and negative, so we'll subtract them and be 3.23, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. There we go. So that's the graph, guys. That's the graph. Here it is. So I know I'm at 0. We're going to put 3.23 here. 3.75 over here. It is inclusive. There's equal signs right here. So we close our points. P is greater than this number. P is less than this number. There, you graphed it. Booyah. Done. Finished. Alright, moving on. Number 38. 99% were solutions of this graph here. Sketch the graph. So let's sketch the graph real quick. P minus 3.49 is less than or equal to 0.37. And over here we put negative 0.37. Less than or equal to. Now we got to bring 3.49 here and make it positive. Bring it here and make it positive, okay? So if we do that, I'm just going to put on my calculator here. 3.49 plus 0.37 gives me 3.86 over here. And then if I bring negative 3.9 over here and make it positive, I have 3.49 minus 0.37. That gives me 3.12. So I can graph that relatively quickly. I have a 0 here, 3.12 here, 3.86 here. Notice I do have equal signs or inclusive signs, so I do close these points. P is greater than, so I go this way. P is less than, so I go this way. There's my graph right there. Did it. Now, sketch the graph. Now, how many of the 4,000 men had poem widths that are solutions for this? Are you serious? What does it say up here? 99% of the poem widths were solutions of this inequality right here, which is the same one as this one here. So they tell you the answer right here. How many of the 4,000 men? 99%. So how do you find out how many men that is? Well, you take 4,000 of, or no, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. You take 99% of 4,000. Look, guys, if I told you I'd give you 25% of a paycheck that I had, and let's say my paycheck was $3,000, if I gave you 25%, you would take 0.25 times 3,000. You guys should know that, and you would get $750, okay? Well, 99% of the 4,000 men satisfy this. So when it says how many, just take 4,000 times 99%, and you will get 3,960. So 3,960 of the men fell within this region right here. And of course, we just saw the graph a second ago. 3,960 men fell in this region. Right here. Right there. Okay? Alright. Back it up and watch again if you need to. Number 39. Physicians consider an adult's body temperature to be normal if it's between these two numbers here. Write an absolute value inequality that describes this. Okay, I've taught you what to do. We're going to say x has to be less than. It says between these two numbers, so I'm not going to put equals. Now let's see if they do in their answer here. They do. I would have to disagree with that because if I tell you it's between something, that does not mean it includes those. So personally, I would put x is less than, it's between these two numbers. It doesn't say it includes them. So 99.6, but if you put the equal sign, that's fine. And less than or greater than 97.6. There we go. So x is greater than 97, less than 99. Now, remember what I've taught you guys to do. I've taught you to find the average of these two outside numbers, okay? So 97.6 plus 99.6 divided by 2, you get 98.6. So I'm going to subtract that from all three sides, all right? So here we go. 97.6 minus 98.6. X minus 98.6. 99.6 minus 98.6. I'll get a negative 1 here. In the middle I'll have x minus 98.6. And over here I'll have a positive 1. So look at that. I have a conjunction in which this number here and this number here are identical, except this one's negative, this one's positive, and both arrows are pointing to the left. So I can write my absolute value inequality like this. And like that. There you go, we did it. And that is the correct answer, except they have the equal sign underneath it, which I disagree with. Okay, number 40. Green plants can live in the ocean from 0 to 100 feet. Find an absolute value inequality that describes this. Okay, no problem. Here we go. So I'm going to put D for depth. So my depth has to be, now it says they can live at depths of 0 to 100. To me, that's inclusive. So your D has to be less than or equal to 100. Or greater than or equal to 0. So your depth has to be greater than 0, less than 100. Now, to write this as an absolute value inequality, I've taught you what what to do. You find the average of these two numbers. So 0 plus 100 is 100 divided by 2 is 50. So I'm going to subtract 50 from all three parts. 0 minus 50 or 0 negative 50 is negative 50. D minus 50 or D negative 50 is just this. 100 negative 50. 100 minus 50 or negative 50 is 50. Look what I've got. I've got a conjunction with two identical numbers here, except one's negative and one's positive. Both arrows pointing to the left. So I take D minus 50 less than or equal to 50, and don't forget your absolute value symbols. And there we go. That should be the correct answer. They used X, I used D, no big deal. Alright, number 41. If you'll look at the directions above number 41 in your book, it says the American Kennel Club had developed guidelines for judging the features of various breeds of dogs. For collies, the guidelines specify that the weight should be between 60 and 75 pounds for males and between 60 or between 50 and 65 pounds for females. Write an absolute value inequality for the recommended weight of a female collie. Okay, no problem. First of all, a female collie, it has to fall between 50 and 65, so the weight should be greater than 50. Now again, I don't think we should put equals because it says in the directions above number 41, it says the weight has to fall between these two numbers, but if you put the equal sign, that's fine. It has to be greater than 50, less than 65. Now, if you add these two together and divide by 2 to find their average, you're going to get 57.5. So I'm going to subtract that from all three parts. 50 minus 57.5, W minus 57.5, 65 minus 57.5. Okay. Now, here we get negative 7.5. And over here we would get, let's see, 7.5. Look what I've got. I've got a conjunction, arrows pointing to the left. Two identical numbers here, except one's positive and one's negative. So I put my absolute value, W minus 57.5, less than 7.5. There we go. That's an absolute value inequality. That models the situation. There we go. Alright, last problem. Now they want us to do the same thing for the specifications for the male collies. Well, if you read the directions, it says the male collies can weigh between 60 and 75 pounds. Okay, so the weight should be greater than 60, less than 75. If you take the average of these two, you'll once again get 7.5. So 60 minus 7.5, W minus 7.5, and 75 minus 7.5. Now, if we subtract these two here, we're going to get, let's see, my fault, I apologize guys. The average would be, and you guys knew this I'm sure, the average would be 67.5, not 7.5. I knew something was wrong. There we go, much better. So over here I get negative 7.5. Sorry about that, students. And of course W at negative 7.5 stays the same. If you subtract these two in your head or using a calculator, you'll get 7.5. Look, I've got a conjunction, arrows pointing to the left. I have two identical numbers here, except one's positive and one's negative. So I can write an absolute value inequality by taking the middle, putting it in the absolute values, and then bringing down the right side. And I am finished. Alright. So, make sure our answer is correct. And once again, they put the arrow. I'm not going to get too picky. I really disagree with that because whenever it says the weight is between two numbers, it means just that. It's between them, not including them. But that's my opinion. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope the homework help video has been hesitate